Hey, everybody. Welcome to Wine Wednesday. Sorry for the late start. I played all day with Discord. Is it staticky? You can't hear me at all?
Yeah, it was like...
Alright, well, that's all I need to know. No, go in the other room. It'll come on in a minute. So sorry. Okay, sorry, Chris. Welcome, everyone, to Wine Wednesday. I do want feedback. If it's staticky, we made some adjustments. So it should be better now. Okay, Chris, welcome. How are we tonight?
This morning we're really good.
Morning? Right, Australia. Someone asked me actually the other day if I would start doing a stream at a different time for Australia. So we need to discuss what would be a better time for you. But now you showed me already. But what are we drinking on tonight? What wine we got?
Okay, well I'm drinking a can of energy drink because
It's morning.
it's only like 11 o'clock in the morning.
Sure.
But we've got a Devil's Corner Resolution Pinot Noir from Tasmania.
That you're gonna save and drink with me if I ever get down there, right? Up there, whatever.
Yep, you come down here and we'll try all the local wines.
There we go. Very cool, very cool. I'm jealous for sure. So anyhow, obviously this was a crazy start. Chris was going to help me out by testing the Discord trials, and we will do that at a later date, but I definitely wanted to get him on here and just chit chat with him. So Chris, you were on before and told us a little bit about Seahorse World. Why don't you tell me, do you want to recap it really quickly, or just tell me, what, I don't know, like, I didn't know if you wanted to go backwards or just go forwards.
We could probably just go forwards.
Okay.
If people want to go back and revisit the video, they're more than welcome to.
That's a good plan. Go watch the other video. I'm liking it. Okay, well, tell me the latest. What's going on at Seahorse World now? What are you working on lately?
So, like always, there's heaps and heaps of projects on the go. At the moment, I'm focusing a lot of time and energy into just raising seahorses. So at the moment, we've got plenty of red eye and plenty of white eye coming through, which is fantastic.
Yes. We've talked about that a couple of different times because that's something that I especially am interested in, because some of these species, or, even the reedy eye, are not, I don't know, I just think the Australian version is a little bit different. That's my personal opinion. It might not be, but whatever. So the question is, what do you have any idea? Okay, I'm going to stop rambling. You did mention to me that you actually do ship them overseas, right? Like you said something about you had a shipment going out to certain places.
Yeah, definitely. So, today we've got orders going out to North America, so to the US and Canada today.
That's so cool. That's so cool. And do you basically deal with distributors, or with who can buy seahorses?
So basically anyone. Mostly we deal with the wholesalers and that in all the different countries, because they buy pretty regularly and in much larger quantities. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that is because, dealing with us, you get charged almost the same amount of freight regardless of what quantity of seahorse you buy.
Right.
And so unless you're willing to take on the burden of the cost of shipping, then it doesn't really make it worthwhile to get, say, I don't know, like half a dozen or a dozen seahorses as opposed to like 100.
Gotcha.
Because the cost per seahorse, ramps right up if you're only getting a small quantity.
Right. Yeah, I know, and that's why we had talked about, and I'm gonna bring up to others in the very near future, that in a case like my own, where I would really love to get certain species back into the U.S. Captive breeding circle, doing a joint order with other breeders might be a really good option. So I'm looking into that, and it's very cool to know that we could do that if we wanted to. So aside from that, one of the things that I have always told advise people not to do is buy imported seahorses. However, that is because we're talking about, it's typically seahorses imported from, that go through a long chain, of people to get to us. Whereas with Seahorse World, it literally goes directly from you guys, on a shorter chain, right? Is that correct?
Yeah. So if you were to buy directly from us, then it goes straight to you rather than going from us to a importer, then to a wholesaler, then to a shop, and then to a hobbyist.
Right. No, absolutely. Because that's, I wanted to be clear because I'm known to say, imported kind of steer clear from, but when you're buying direct, that's better. And it's also the fact that you're actually breeding them. You're not collecting them. And I mean, you obviously have to collect them to begin with, but you breed them in the facility, right? All the ones most of the ones.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think every single seahorse that we have on our premises at this very moment are all captive bred and raised. They're not, wild caught or, taken from the wild. So every single one that we have they're all captive bred.
That is so awesome. I love hearing that. And that means that you're having a lot of success. I'm trying to remember exactly. I think the last time that we talked, weren't you having, I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but were you having some difficulties with a certain species or no? Am I thinking wrong?
You're probably thinking right. I can't remember exactly which species we were having issues with. But,
well, it's...
I'm having trouble sourcing a few. I'm trying to bring in new species, but that's kind of slowed right up. So it's kind of on the back burner for now.
Well, now when you talk about bringing in a new species, what does that entail? Meaning, I know the laws state that you're the only facility that can actually do any collecting, and I understand not wanting to, but how does that work? Do you buy from breeders? What?
Yeah, ideally it'd be easiest to just buy from breeders. I haven't had any luck in sourcing any from breeders here in Australia, and with most species we're not able to bring them in from overseas, but Australia itself is a massive biodiversity hotspot for seahorses, right, and cygnathids in general. So there's plenty of different species here that we could theoretically get. It's just a matter of getting the permits and the people organised to collect them.
Sure, gotcha. And and this might be a silly question, but I really don't know. So when you said the permits and the people to collect them, only certain people can collect them? They have to have certain, licensing, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we can actually get permits to collect the certain species, and then you outsource it to an actual collector.
Okay.
And they basically almost use our permit. Can I just let you go just for one quick second? I've just got to quickly answer the door.
Yeah,
I think I've got a package or something.
No, you go ahead, and in fact, if you have to hang up, it's totally cool. You can always come back or not. It's totally fine. Anyhow, that's what happens on Wine Wednesday. Stuff happens. I know, Dan, you were in here. Are you still here, Dan?
Yeah, I'm trying to work as I listen to you guys.
Okay. Well, I was just kind of trying to jump back and forth. What are you working on? Anything in general? Just taking...
No, it's the routine. Trying to catch up. I'm way behind on everything.
And I'm gonna adjust you real quick because you are very low. So I'm gonna turn your little volume up for you just in case you need it. But okay, I hear you. Hey, K-Town. Hey, everybody. What did you say, Dan? I'm sorry.
I said, can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yeah. This audio thing's just about done me in. My daughter and I played with different Hangouts and different Discord games all day long and all night long because I've just been going crazy with the audio. So I don't know, but so it's a little echoey in the Hangout, but hopefully the video sounds good. You guys at home, please let me know. As soon as I talk to Chris for a little bit longer, he has been excellent. Just to let you guys know, I this is a very spur of the moment interview. I did not send him the normal questions, and he just kind of agreed to come on because he is such a great supporter and friend. So it's a little shaky of an interview, so to speak, but you guys can come in and ask him whatever you want, because some of these questions I'm sure you have too, because when you're not in the business side of things, it's interesting to try to figure out, what the difference is between, like, say, a seahorse from Seahorse World and from Chris in Australia, and one that you would get from, Indonesia or something like that. And there's a huge difference. So
Yeah, one has more miles.
one has more miles, and, and did you hear what Chris said? That, like, right now, all of the seahorses in their facility are captive bred. That's pretty cool, I thought. But anyhow, okay, I'm gonna put Chris back up because I know it's his morning time, and Lord help me, I wouldn't be up helping. Okay, all right, I'm gonna take. Okay, maybe. Hang on, trying to get you back up there. There we go. All right, Chris drinking his energy drink. All right. Your hair looks longer than last time.
Yeah, definitely. It's got a little bit crazy.
I like it. I like it. But anyhow, you guys, talk reefers in the house. Absolutely. We like to talk reef too. So I will put up a link in a minute. But if you guys have any questions for Chris, please feel free to ask away. And Ken and Jill Merton want to know, what species do you raise currently?
So currently the species that we're raising are the potbelly or abdominalis, the whitey eye, the reed eye, barber eye, and the cooter. There are plans to start or breed or bring in different species, but they're the 5 that we're working on right now.
Gotcha. 5. Gotcha. And I think we've talked about this before, but the abdominalis are the easiest if you're willing to make sure you get the right temperature, right? I mean,
yeah. So that's always the caveat with them. Like, you need a chiller if you live somewhere warm or somewhere that gets warm over summer. Even down here in Tasmania, where it's pretty cold year round, some people still lose their potbellies over summer, which is really sad.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think you also told me, is there anything new, like, in the non-seahorse categories at Seahorse World? For instance, like...
Yeah, definitely.
Go ahead. Well, tell me about what's going on.
So with non-seahorse stuff, so we're a public aquarium as well. So we've always got, tourists coming through and checking the place out. And so we've always got like a kind of a shuffling of our display tanks, and we've always got different things on display. So like right now, one of our most popular displays is our Tasmanian giant crab, which is about 9.5 kilos. He's huge, like, he's got a massive claw, and he's one of our more impressive displays at the moment.
That's awesome. I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry if I did, but I'm curious about the crab. Now, this is what kind of display is it? I mean, is it just like a normal looking tank? Can he have tank mates and stuff, or?
Yeah, he's got a whole bunch of smaller hermit crabs and things in there that actually sort of clean up after him.
Gotcha.
He's a bit of a messy eater. But it's mostly just sort of them with him.
Wow, very cool. I mean, I think that's awesome. And yeah, we did talk last time a lot about the different other animals that you keep and other displays that you have. Do you guys do anything with, since I have a few reefers in the audience, do you guys do anything with coral at all? At all? Is there any reef tank displays in your facility, or?
Not really at the moment. It is something that we were planning or are still planning on doing. We would love to set up a Tamar River coral tank, full of like different types of soft corals and everything. And like that, they're literally the coral, soft coral beds and that are around here in our sort of tidal river. So, it would be amazing to set up, a true sort of local biotope with that sort of stuff. And it would be something that no one else anywhere in the world is doing. So,
Yes. Well, I mean, I know you've got so much on your plate that it's like crazy, but that would definitely be really cool if you get to pull that one off. So I'm voting for that one. Sorry, I was flopping the hair if you didn't hear me. Anyhow, let's see. So you're working on the coral tank, you're working on the seahorses, and I'm trying to think. Dan, what else? I'm sure I'm missing 500 different questions, but...
Any pipes?
Yeah, so we've got some zebra pipefish at the moment, and we've also got some freshwater pipefish from Indonesia at the moment as well.
Wow.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I come from like the freshwater part of the hobby, for years before even starting here. So when I saw some freshwater pipefish come up on one of our collectors or suppliers lists, I pretty much just jumped straight on it and made it happen because, I was so sort of enthusiastic about keeping some sort of, cygnathids that, live in freshwater. I was just like, that's amazing. We must have it.
Right. Absolutely. And I'm sorry. I just realized that when we started this stream, I didn't even introduce you. I was so last minute, you guys. I'm sorry. Chris, what is your title currently?
So I'm just the aquarium manager or farm manager at Seahorse World.
Well, that's quite a big deal actually, because Seahorse World is doing a lot of important things and is one of the. Correct me if I'm wrong. Are you the only place in Australia that's or one of a few places that's able to deal in seahorses? Correct.
Yeah, we would definitely be the biggest one.
Gotcha.
There are probably a few other smaller crowds dealing with maybe seahorses on a very small scale.
Mm-hmm.
I think the others mainly focus on sea dragons. There's a couple of other people who deal with those, but I think we're the main seahorse suppliers in Australia.
Is there a lot of work being done with sea dragons right now? Is that the big thing over there?
I wouldn't say it's the big thing, but there's definitely a few people really sort of specialising in that, which is really good, I think.
Have they been able to breed them yet?
Yeah, so there was actually a guy here who managed to breed leafy sea dragons in captivity with a I think it was a wild caught male or female and a captive raised whatever the opposite was, which was quite exciting.
That's amazing. I mean, that's
definitely.
Wow. Was there a big story about it and I just missed it? Or
I think it was pretty quiet. Like I only heard it from someone that I know. So
gotcha.
I didn't actually read any articles or anything on it, so it might have been kept pretty quiet.
Gotcha. Well, it'll come out once they get more and more success, I'm sure. And the leafy,
yeah, definitely.
Now, aren't the leafy sea dragons a little more difficult than the weedy, or no? Or you don't?
Yeah, definitely. Okay. So, well, I mean, both, all types of sea dragons are very rare for the aquarium hobby or the aquarium trade, but leafies command a much higher price, and we don't actually have any living specimens at Seahorse World. We've got some preserved specimens from a long time ago, but they're sort of too expensive to get some in. So.
Gotcha. I hear you. So I'm trying to think. Is there anything? And Chris, how much I appreciate you coming in, and I'm gonna think of 5 questions after I say I'm done asking questions. But you guys know how I am, especially when I'm not prepared. Sorry, but
that's okay. I love questions.
Is there anything that you,
especially if they're spur of the moment?
Especially what?
Especially if they're spur of the moment, just like random questions off the top of your head.
Like, what does your shirt say? I can't read it.
So it says eat sleep aquarium. It might be coming off backwards because it's on the inside of my phone, so everything's like all reversed.
It's coming out great for
But,
me.
yeah.
Go on.
It's basically the story of my life. It's just like eat, sleep, and work with aquariums.
And I do love the fact that you said at the beginning that, you know, people should go back and watch the first video, because it was actually probably the best interview video that I've ever done, because we were prepared and it was good. But how long have you been doing this now altogether, even including the freshwater? How long have you been doing aquariums?
It would definitely, I think it goes back to like 2008.
Wow.
So yeah, around a decade.
Yeah. That's a pretty good time right there.
Yeah, definitely.
One thing I was curious about when I asked you if you had any coral displays at Seahorse World, and you said no, and you're going to work on the really cool one that no one else is doing with the soft corals. My question is, what goes into your seahorse displays? Like in the cave and stuff, is it mainly just rock, or what's in the seahorse displays?
So, like all of our seahorse displays are with artificial decorations. So I haven't actually got any live corals, or I haven't even really got live rock in most of our seahorse displays. So it's mostly just just literally filters, substrate in some of them, bare bottom in many others. And then, all sorts of artificial plants and, chains and things for them to hold onto, and display them that way, just for ease of keeping the tanks clean and the seahorses happy and healthy.
Right. No. And what do you use? What is the main filtration? Are you able to tell me like for instance, here a lot of people use K1 media. Of course, skimmers and stuff, but what is the main filtration for Seahorse World? Is there any particulars that you use?
We've got literally, we've probably got like each different system is almost a different filter and a different setup.
Really?
So I'm guessing they were probably set up kind of staged at different times, and different aquarium managers have set up different tanks as they've kind of gone along, and we've just kind of kept adding to it, but it means that like each different setup is, totally different, and they're all, it's not like they're all kind of uniform. We've just used the one type of filtration, which is, it keeps things interesting.
Yeah.
And it, I'm of the thought process that there's no, perfect filtration. Like each different type of filtration has its own pros and cons and benefits and weaknesses.
And so you get to see when one's better than the other, really. Right?
Yeah, well, basically, like some are easier to work with than others, some are more reliable, some need more maintenance or less maintenance. Yeah.
Okay. I'm getting some weird feedback. Dan, did you go outside? It's okay. No problems. Okay, it went away.
No, but I'll turn my mic off if you want.
No, you're fine. You're not. No, it's fine. I know mine's kind of making a little chatter too. In fact, I just realized I don't have my light on, so you guys can barely see me, but it's okay. It's all good. At least everybody can hear us. So, anyhow, Chris, have you had any tanks that just did not do well and you learned a valuable lesson from it? Like, have you ever done a display with live rock and realized that's probably not your best bet as a business, or that kind of thing?
Yeah, so we've got one display. It's not for seahorses. We've got tropical marines and snowflake eels and a few other really cool things in there. It's a beautiful tank and it's got beautiful inhabitants, but the problem that we had was with Aptasia and glass anemones.
Right. And
it was absolutely riddled with them. They were everywhere, and they were all in the live rock, and they were just and one of my really big goals or projects that I've been working on, especially this year, has been trying to eliminate Aptasia and other pests from all of our systems, which is a much bigger job than it sounds.
Oh, I can't even imagine. I had it in one tank and it about did me in. So, go on.
Yeah. So, I mean, when I sort of took over at Seahorse World and started there, I kind of unintentionally inherited all these problems from previous managers or aquarium managers and whatnot. And so that was one of the big things that I've sort of been working on trying to improve, is making sure that we don't have, pests like Aptasia or bristleworms, some of the types of sponges and things that just, were in a lot of our systems. And so this winter, we're in spring here in Australia, and I think you guys are in fall or autumn. And this winter, so the last, I don't know, maybe 3 to 6 months, I've been working really, really hard on trying to, basically eliminate all these things and start from scratch with a lot of our displays. And I've started with the seahorse tanks that we, keep and breed seahorses in. So every single seahorse system at Seahorse World, I've tried to, eliminate all these pests because they were actually affecting our survival rates, our, the health of our seahorses, which is kind of unacceptable in my eyes.
Sure.
And so trying to basically, take all the seahorses and whatnot out, basically nuke the systems, just kill everything, clean everything, scrub everything with a toothbrush almost, and just set it up again from scratch and kind of start over, which has actually worked quite well. We've got a few systems or tanks here and there where the pests have actually come back, but for the most part, we're actually pretty clean at the moment.
So, I was going to go try to do a link real quick, but so basically what's worked the best when it comes to that kind of stuff is taking the seahorses out, nuking the system, and that's interesting. Had you tried anything prior that didn't work, or like you said, came back?
So I tried spot dosing and that, and with the case of something like Aptasia, there was just too many of them, or it only takes one or a fragment of one for them to eventually come back. So I just felt like I was kind of up against an enemy that you just can't beat. Like all it takes is a fragment of one in your tank, and they'll regenerate from that. So
that is no joke. I actually myself in my Erectus display, I started with all dry rock. And it was I already know it was macros that brought in the Aptasia. At that time, I didn't realize, I don't know why I didn't realize it, but I didn't. And, of course, I got one, and then they were everywhere because I tried to kill that one. And it got so bad for me that I literally pulled half of the rock in the tank, put it in a separate container, used, I'm going to say the wrong word. If you can still hear me, pancur. That's what it was. Panicur, however you say it. I used that. Whoops, I don't know what that was, but I used that to try to treat the rock outside the tank, and yeah, they just never died. It was terrible. It was just awful. I can't even remember what I ended up doing. I think I ended up having to nuke and start over too. Come to think of it.
Yeah.
And it kills me too because a lot of people will swear by this, that, and the other, but it just goes to show, depends on, a lot of things, and it doesn't work for every person. So, yeah. Anyways, so is there anything, I know you said that you have different systems for each different display, and you've kind of done things as you've proceeded, but is there any certain setup or system that you just think works really well for seahorses? Or is it too big? Go ahead.
It's quite a broad question, but basically, I've got my own personal favorite systems and setups. like we've got some. They're actually like air-driven top filters. So basically, we've got some air lifts on the sides of the tanks, and basically, just running off air, and it overflows water up over the system and onto a top filter that mechanically filters it right on the very top, and then goes down through different types of media. And I personally like those setups because at a glance I can tell if the filter needs cleaning, or if the Dacron needs cleaning, or if anything's coming up that shouldn't be coming up, or whatever. But we've got other setups that I like for other reasons. Like we've got canister filters set up, and they require less maintenance, so that's always a good thing for me. We've got sumps and bio balls, and we've got some kind of like K1, but not quite like you suggested, where the media is always moving, and that's quite a cool setup to look at as well. We've got different setups that use ceramic medias, plastic medias, kind of a little bit of everything.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I am going to, Dan, if you're still here, feel free.
Yep.
You know what? Do you have, the reason I'm asking is because I'm going to provide a link so that people can come in if they want, and I have to go make the link. So, do you have any questions for Chris? Or I'm basically, Lucy didn't come, so I'm asking if you'll chit chat for a second. Tell me what you're doing, whatever. I just need to make this link real quick. Go ahead.
All right. Chris, if I'm not imposing on proprietary information, what do you guys start the read-eye off with for first food?
So we actually use rotifers for our first food, which isn't always the best food. If in an ideal world we would probably culture our own copepods and use those instead, but in recent times we've actually been doing quite well with the rotifers, provided we can keep their numbers up high enough.
Gotcha. Yeah, rotifers are easy but a pain in the butt.
Yeah, they are.
Have you ever seen a mass production of copepods?
I have, but only in videos, so I've never actually seen it in person.
I attended a seminar about 3 years ago, and I got to see a system where they were producing 1 million copepods per day. And
that would be so awesome.
It was about a 1,500-gallon culture tank. They had a complete algae room that, we're talking, the 6-foot bags of algae to feed the copepods. It was pretty impressive.
That would be absolutely awesome.
But it's also a crap load more work too.
Oh, definitely. So, I'm very, very lucky in that, in my job of looking after the aquarium and, in the farm and raising all the fry and whatnot, I don't have any role in preparing the foods. So, we've got other people down at Seahorse Australia who prepare all of our rotifers and our Artemia and all of that sort of stuff. So I don't have to actually, there wouldn't be enough hours in the day for me to actually, look after food cultures as well as raising different types of fry and everything. So it would be kind of unviable for me to do that on top of what I'm currently doing.
Yeah, I get that. I'm overstretched right now as it is. I'm currently running the solo, so I'm really stretched thin right now.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like, I can only imagine, how much work it is for you guys, when that's your primary kind of way of doing things. And, like I said, it would be unviable for me to do that on the kind of scale that we're doing things at right now. So I'm very, very lucky to have some very, very amazing special people at Seahorse Australia that kind of do that stuff for me. And I kind of go through the highs and lows with them when the food cultures are doing really, really well, or, they're not doing so well. And, I've only got nothing but respect for you guys, which, do that all the time, because it's just so full on.
Yes, I know. I really wish that I could go down and be and help Dan most of the time. Seriously, we're talking about Chris, you know, and I'm gonna have to come to Australia and do a special one with YouTube, and I'm gonna go literally follow Dan. Hopefully, he'll let me help a little bit, but and kind of show, you know, everything that he goes through and everything that you go through. It's a lot. Really quickly, I wanted to say hi, Jill. I did see you join. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. I saw you mute yourself, but feel free. Anybody who wants to join, the link's there. And we'll just chit-chat like we're always supposed to do. In fact, Jill, did you have a couple of questions? Because I would love to stand up and turn my light on. Go ahead.
I don't know. It's amazing that. So, do you actually go out in the ocean and see all the sea lions in Australia?
Okay, I don't know what that was. Did I lose everyone? Hang on, Jill.
Yeah.
Can you say that one more time? Because everything got chaosy. It was probably my audio problems. So I'm going to gently set my microphone down, and can you repeat that, please?
I wanted to know if you actually go out in the ocean and collect species ever. I just think that'd be amazing to do. And then I know that you captain breed them, which is awesome. So do you ever get to do that?
So right now I do go collecting locally, and sometimes I go collecting elsewhere as well. I'm looking at different locations that I can go collecting. But I don't actually currently go diving to go collecting for things like seahorses and whatnot. It's mostly sort of things within the intertidal zone that I focus on right now. I am actually lined up to do a diving course, hopefully sometime within the next month, so that I can actually go diving and look at collecting things like seahorses and pipefish and sea dragons and things like that, which would be amazing. But I've got to, you know, do this diving course and maybe a few others before I really get into that. So it is in the pipeline. That's one of the big projects that I'll be working on in the near future, but not really right now.
That sounds amazing.
Definitely. We've actually got a dive school which is actually on the same wharf as we are at Seahorse World and Seahorse Australia. So we've got some great guys there. One of them actually used to work for us at Seahorse Australia, and he's actually a master dive instructor. So I'm hopefully doing that diving course with him very soon, and we can get collecting some awesome stuff.
So where do you find them in Australia? Like, I mean, are they in the reef, or are they like in grassy areas, or where are they usually located in the ocean?
So it's a really broad question because Australia is so large. Like Australia
Right.
is roughly the size of the US, but mostly down here in Tasmania, where we are, it's mostly sort of, and even the southern states of Australia, it's mostly kind of seagrass beds where you find many seahorses and pipefish and whatnot.
Amazing. I would actually, that's my dream, to go diving in Australia. I think it's just so pretty there. And everyone seems so friendly too.
Yeah, definitely. We are actually possibly looking at doing diving tours down where we are in the near future. So, you know, with the dive school there, it's pretty perfectly set up that sometime, hopefully in the near future, they can organise it where you'll be able to go, you know, do an introductory dive course, or if you experienced at diving already, basically go straight down to where they know where seahorses are and experience, you know, seeing them in the wild firsthand.
Oh, wow.
Sounds
That'd be
amazing.
so cool. So you guys usually catch them in the wild, and then you captive breed them in the aquariums?
Yeah, so we haven't actually caught seahorses from the wild ourselves in a long time. So I think it was like 18, 19 years ago,
Wow.
give or take. When we did that on a pretty large scale, we went and collected seahorses, the potbelly seahorses from a whole bunch of different sites down in Tasmania, all around Tasmania, which actually formed, our current broodstock. And over many generations since, that's resulted in all of our potbelly seahorses that we have now.
Wow. So the seahorses, I guess, in the United States too, they're you usually find them in like grassy areas and not really in the big reefs or anything, but along where there's maybe, I don't know, mangrove or something growing.
Actually, I just wanted to say very quickly before, I'm sorry, Chris, if I interrupted you, but what's funny is they're finding, and in my interview with Graham, he discussed the fact that they're finding more and more seahorses way out in these very flow filled, not mangrove, not safe, slow moving areas. So I really think that
Hmm.
that theory that they were just found in, these coastal areas, it was just because that's all we knew, if that makes sense at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, so those are probably the easiest ones to find, and that's why they're so well documented. Like you said, in areas where the flow is really sort of turbulent, and you probably wouldn't expect to find them. It's probably a place that's hard to go diving and hard to actually go and check for them.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know right here locally with us in the Tamar River, the flows, when the tide is moving either in or out, really phenomenal. Like it almost looks like a river torrent where, there's, massive tidal surges. And if you go diving at the wrong time, you can end up hundreds of meters in a very short time from where you think you are, if you get caught up in the currents.
Man.
But that could be a good thing for seahorses as well, because you have to imagine all the different types of mysids and copepods and things that would get carried in those currents past them, and so they might have really good pickings if they're holding onto a bit of weed or something, and all the stuff that'll be coming past them.
Right. No, makes
Hmm.
sense. Go
You
on,
know,
Jill. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
Oh no, that's basically the questions I had. I think it's great. Um, I mean, that'd be an awesome place to visit. I would think if I ever, in my dreams, get to come to Australia, and actually do some diving and check out your place, that would be amazing. I'm a Spanish teacher, but my main destination where I'd want to go in the world would be Australia because of all the amazing aquatic life. And I just think it would be so cool to see just the reef and where the seahorses are, which you said are abundant and it's so big in Australia, which I feel like it's a little bit more preserved as far as in the United States, where there's a lot more pollution and things. It's just be a really cool environment to be in. So I'm jealous. I kind of wish I kind of wish that I lived just the everything that you guys have in Australia is amazing, and I think that what you're doing maybe will get more people in Australia interested in captive bred seahorses. But then I also look, you could probably just go in the ocean a lot easier and see these beautiful creatures. So do people actually keep seahorses a lot as in aquariums or reef aquariums in
Yeah,
Australia?
definitely. So I'm constantly in contact with people that are either public aquariums or people just at home that are keeping seahorses. A lot of them are our own customers, either directly or indirectly, through buying seahorses through us or through the people that we supply. But I'm always talking to people that are keeping seahorses, and usually it's them encountering some sort of a problem. But they call us for help basically because a quick Google search or whatever, we're the main ones sort of dealing with seahorses constantly in Australia. Um, So yeah, just to what you said earlier, that you're just a bit jealous about us here in Australia. I think that just goes, to us as people in general, sort of wanting what we don't have. Like I'm really really jealous of the seahorse species that you guys have access to in America, and all the different types of copepods and that you have access to. Um, I think people just kind of want what we don't or can't have.
No,
Yeah.
Chris, I'm sorry. Nope. I'm gonna have to go with her. She's right. Australia's better, and this is not cool, and I'm jealous. And if you're gonna start diving too, I'm really gonna oh my gosh, just have to, yeah. But I also wanted to say, in response to that, that anyone who might be watching or watch this in the future that might be from Australia or just interested, Sam Banfield would actually be screaming at me if I allowed this to pass without mentioning that there are seahorse Australia groups on Facebook. She runs one, so there are lots of people actually trying to keep captive bred seahorses in Australia in homes, and a couple of them have been on this show, and they're in all of our Facebook groups, and they're really great people too, and they care about just what you were saying, Jill, the captive breeding and trying to make that of importance, even though they're right outside. So they are definitely working hard on that, and Chris helps them and is a big part of it. So thank you again, Chris. But they're definitely there. So
you're the Dan Underwood of Australia, basically.
I don't know if I'd go that far. Dan's pretty great, so he's helped me a lot. So maybe one day I can aspire to be that good, but not just yet.
That's one of the things I love the most hearing you say that, is that just all of the breeders and the facilities help each other. It didn't it didn't used to be that way, especially with facilities. Or public aquariums kind of thing. It used to be, it was almost a competition. And I think that actually Dan Underwood might have been one of the ones that helped change that. And people like you, Chris, that, just continue to share and put the quality and the caring about doing a better job ahead of, being the top dog or whatnot. So very cool. Very cool. I didn't mean to interrupt. Jill, did you have something else?
Definitely.
I just want to say, just everyone that I met on groups and everything. I only started in April with, around April with seahorses. And right now I have about 60 fry, erectus fry, and probably about 30 that are probably about 2 months away from possibly selling and getting on mysis, and I would not have been able to do any of this without the help of all of you that have given such amazing help on this, and also the Seahorse Group Source and other websites on Facebook that just have totally opened my eyes and taught me so much, and it just amazes me how I'm so thankful to all of you, because if you look at the big picture, we are actually helping out the ocean, and we're doing a great thing for the environment, and I just thank everyone for helping me let me do that too.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to say very quickly that if the video does start freezing, Ray and Lucy have now also joined, so we're pressing the limits here. So if it starts acting up, I apologize, and Chris will be back with me, surprise Chris, on Discord one of these days very soon. So if you do have questions and it does get gunked up, he's going to be here, and he's also very easy to reach, on Facebook or whatnot. I will make sure to put the information in the link when we're finished. But Ray, I have a question for you since you're here.
Well, I have a question first off.
Well, you go first.
I don't know where Chris is from in Australia, what organization he's with. I didn't catch the first part when you first started up.
Actually, you go ahead.
Sorry.
I didn't ask him. I did a really bad startup, Ray, but go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. It was a little bit, funny at the start there. So we're from Beauty Point in Tasmania, and Tasmania is the little, tiny little island underneath Australia.
Are you Seahorse Australia?
So I'm from Seahorse World, but Seahorse World and Seahorse Australia, like it gets complicated, but basically they're the same business, same company, same owners, same people running them, or different people that are working in them. But yeah,
Okay. All the
we're
seahorses that I have came from there.
oh, awesome. What species do you have?
Abs and barbs.
Fantastic. So the abs
I
were
got them
from
about a year and a half ago.
what's it, sorry?
I ordered them about a year and a half ago. I was having
Awesome.
trouble getting them up here in Canada. There was a guy that wanted some, but he wanted ones that weren't available at the time because of the demand for certain ones. Well, I took what was available to me and
Can you hear me?
ordered it in myself. Cost an arm and a leg shipping, but at least I satisfied my own passions.
Yeah, definitely. So the abdominalis would have actually been me raising them at the time, and the barbs actually come from the Seahorse Australia site. So they're two actual separate buildings, totally different facilities, but they're run and owned by the same people.
Yeah. I lost one ab about 6 weeks after I got the shipment. He delivered babies at that 6 week mark, and then they were all dead. And 2 days later, he died.
No, that really sucks. Sorry to hear that.
Well, just those things, and there's no way to know what the heck caused it. Obviously, it got pregnant after it was shipped here because it was at the 6 week mark, and I think their gestation's about 50, 51 days from what I read. Is that correct?
Like generally for us, it's around the 24 to 28 day mark.
Oh, okay.
But that might, depend on the water temperatures at the time. So seasonally, it changes from winter to summer.
Yeah.
But that's usually about the 1 month mark for us.
Yeah. And the barbs haven't had any losses there. I got 8 barbs and 6 abs. So now I'm down to 5 and 8. 5 abs and 8 barbs. But not producing any fry, which is probably a good thing at my age.
A lot less work.
I'm gonna call that a success story, man. I mean, they're all doing well. That's still a success. So go on.
Yeah, I've gone through the Redi and the Erectus. Used to raise those and sell those privately and to other stores, and but I was in a little bit better shape and a little bit younger than I am now. So anyway, it was nice to see someone come on here from Australia again. I think Sam was the last one I saw.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think if we can get this working where it seems to be working tonight, thank goodness. So if we can get this working, then more people will come. And I'll have some reef episodes and different episodes, but still, the Seahorse people can come together. Hey, Ray, I wanted to ask you really quickly because Jill, who must have had to go, thank you for joining. Just a quick note, you can always come back in if you feel like it, if we're still going, by clicking on the same thing in your email or the same link. But anyways, it was just interesting to me that she was talking about how much help she's gotten and how she had no idea that, how easy it could be with captive breeding and with captive bred seahorses, and that she got all that information from the Facebook groups. Now, we constantly talk about how we miss the forums, but maybe it is, if the right people are on Facebook. I just wondered what you thought of that, since you're one of the people like me who miss the forums. But she's gotten all her info from Facebook. What?
If she hasn't been on the forum, she has no way to compare.
True.
So while she thought this was easy, just think from our point of view, how much easier it would be if they could go on the org, sit there, search, and click up and get all these threads from the past that from my experience, I have no way to draw up previous threads on Facebook. So I might have something that maybe a month ago, I remember there was a topic there that I want to look at again. or maybe add some more information to. I have no idea how to get back to that kind of thing.
See, that's when you call Dan. He pins his posts. but anyways, no, I'm not at all saying you're wrong, Ray. I just think I think my mind is being a tad changed. I still think it's a little dangerous because anybody can be an expert on social media. So, but with people like Dan and Chris and you and everyone on Facebook now, it's a little different because the other side of the coin is that a lot of the information on the older forums has changed, because we've learned. So I don't know. I was just curious what you guys thought. What are your thoughts, Chris? What do you think?
I can kind of see the benefits to both sides, but I'm kind of in Ray's corner here. I really miss the old forums. Like, I used to be on all sorts of old forums back in the day with like shrimp and all sorts of fish keeping stuff. And I also really miss that, being able to go back and look at posts from people who might not even be active anymore. And that's what you will find is, if someone like Dan was to, leave the hobby or whatever and they weren't around anymore, those Facebook groups and that he runs would really sort of struggle.
Yep.
Because you lose a lot of that really good information and you can't go back and find it very easily. But at the exact same time, so long as there are really good people around, Facebook is infinitely easier to use and post photos. And I remember, having to use 2 or 3 different sites to host photos and then share them to the forums and all sorts of issues with technology there. But, it's just that double-sided, double-edged sword.
Mm-hmm. No,
Yeah, that was the problem at one time, to be able to post on the forums. But I had a route around that. I would just upload stuff to my website and then link it, put the link on the forum to my website, so it was easy to get something on there. But other people were having to download programs so they could upload to that program and then turn around and try and get it on, find out how to put it on the pages in the forum. And then I seem to recall there's a lot of times the programs that they downloaded, is that what they call apps now? But they would be doing it a certain way, and then all of a sudden the parameters would change.
The programs would update.
Yeah, something would change about it, and then there was a big screw around for a while, and everybody was trying to figure out how to get it back working again.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there laughing because I had an easy way to get it done.
Yeah, definitely.
But I was fortunate. I got on, I guess, into the computer business end of it without having a computer. I changed providers for my television, and they came along and they put 2 lines down in the basement where I was set up. And I set up in the basement because that's where I had all my tanks. And I asked him, well, what's this other line for? I said, I've only got 1 TV down here. And he said, well, that's for your high-speed internet. So I asked him, what's that? He says, well, your computer. This is back in '98.
Sorry, I shouldn't have.
Anyway.
You just made my day. Go on.
Anyway, he says, wow, we got just the thing for you. It turns out I used my TV, and they gave me a keyboard and another thing that looked like a giant zapper for your controlling your TV, the handheld things. Mm-hmm. But it turned out you could use either one of these things, and you could go on the internet using the TV as your monitor. And
that's cool.
And these things were wireless, didn't have to have connections going to the TV or anything. The only problem was that eventually I had to start paying for I was going to have to start paying for the TV internet service. Like they had a thing set up for a 2-year program because this was the first fiber optic that they'd put in London, and they found out it was going to cost too much, so it was going kaputs after the 2 years, after the 2-year mandate they had. So it ended up when I started doing research, I had to connect to a U.S. Provider because in Canada here there weren't any for this web TV at the time. When I started checking it out, it was going to cost me so much. I figured, what the hell? I went out and bought a bloody computer. That was the start of things. And then next thing I know, I was just mucking about trying to figure out how to do things with the computer, and found out that I could get a free website from this place called Angel Fire. So next thing I know, I got a website, and then over a few years, I end up on 30 odd pages of stuff on my website. And now I don't really service it much anymore. I still use it for posting pictures and whatnot. But I think about the last thing I ever did was I put some pictures on when I got the Seahorse Australia shipment. I just added them to the string of other seahorses that I had put on at other times.
Hey, how cool though!
But,
how cool that
it was
there.
quite a time of learning, and thank God I did it when I did, because now with having cognitive impairment, I'd never be able to accomplish anything now with it. But so, have all you people been on computers all your lives, or?
Well, kind of, sort of.
Or did you?
Yeah, I've been quite lucky to sort of grow up with them. So I remember, being a small child at school, and computers were fairly new back then, and just sort of growing up and changing with the technology. So I struggle with it a little bit more than some people. Some people just take to it like a fish to water, but it's probably a lot easier for me than for other people who haven't grown up with them. So
you know what though?
Yeah, I thought it was a big thing when they come out with this thing here for my business. It was a monstrous thing there, but I could punch in and use it for an adding machine, and I could have a drawer under it, and it would kick the drawer out with change compartments and everything, and just a monstrosity. But it was manually operated.
Yeah,
that was a big thing for me when I was young.
Well, I'll tell you what.
I've still got manual typewriters upstairs.
Go ahead, Dan.
Ray, I go back to the early 80s when Radio Shack was selling a lot of computers, and back before there were standard operating systems. And I had an old, they call it the Trash 80. It was a cool computer because you could put the program disk in and the data disk in at the same time. It had two disk drives.
Commodore?
No. This was the Radio Shack. And I actually interfaced an electric typewriter to it so I could print, the job I was doing, print legal documents instead of a dot matrix.
Wow. I'll tell you.
Well, I never even had the pleasure of operating an electric typewriter. That came after my time.
Well, I'll tell you, no matter.
My wife used one when she was working at the university down here, but then it was so much nicer for her when they switched to computers. But they got into computers long before I did.
Well, no matter how frustrated
Chris,
I
are you?
don't think I'm being heard.
Sorry.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Chris, are you guys using any software for work for managing the tanks?
We're not actually. It would be great to do something like that, and I think it would streamline a lot of things, especially if we could, measure water parameters and temperature and things like that. It would let us know if things got out of whack very quickly. I've been to Melbourne Aquarium and seen some of their software that they had running on a lot of tanks that sort of, send them text messages in the middle of the night if something's going amiss.
Right.
And, I would love to have something like that, but we just don't have the sort of levels of funding to do something like that.
Right. Well, what I was referring to, that's another good aspect of using computers, but what I was referring to is record keeping.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So I've actually got, countless spreadsheets and things where, I keep track of everything from how many seahorses we have in each berth to, the dates and when they get weaned onto different foods, and then when they get moved to grow out tanks, and then they get sold and all that sort of stuff.
What I'm finding is that software is great in terms of being able to go back and look at historical stuff and find information. The sucky part of it is the data entry. It's so much quicker to have a clipboard hanging on a tank and jot it down than it is to go and get into a computer and jot everything where it's supposed to be, and it's much more cumbersome with the data entry.
Definitely. It's funny that you say that, because I actually print off my actual spreadsheet, take it out with a clipboard and a pen to the actual, rooms where I do this, and then I manually put in all the data in all the columns, and then I take it back to the computer and, input all the stuff on the keyboard, and then save it, and then basically print that off the next time I need to do the exact same thing, and keep doing it that way. So I'm actually probably doubling the amount of data entry that I need to, but it's much easier to do it that way for me.
Yeah, but the thing is, you can keep working. The problem I'm finding is I can use my phone, my iPad, or the laptop, desktop, whatever, but the time that it takes to get to each field to put everything in, it's still too cumbersome than when you're trying to work.
Yeah, definitely. I find the same thing.
Can you guys hear me now? Oh Lord.
At the exact same time, it's worth it to have, all those records and things to look back on, and then that way you know roughly how long certain things should take, or you can compare to previous batches of fly, and you can check, the birth frequency for different species in different tanks, and you can see if, you should have a birth coming soon, and on average.
Can you guys hear me now?
So there's lots of interesting things you can actually do with that data.
Well, this is interesting
once
for the
you've
video.
filed enough of it.
They're literally chatting without me because they can't hear me.
Did we lose Kelly?
You lost Kelly. Okay, hang on.
Well, I don't know. I heard lots of crashing noise.
Oh,
Oops.
boy. Oh, fun. Okay,
Well,
hang on. Here we go. Okay.
she's still got a little square down here in the bottom here. Isn't that hers that says seahorse?
Here, let me see this.
I think so.
No.
So for anyone who was watching near the start of the stream, I had to actually go and answer the door to get a package. It was actually a whole bunch of different seahorse things that I bought from the internet. So I actually just had a whole heap of these literally arrive while I was doing a seahorse stream. A whole bunch of decorations.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry guys, my microphone came unplugged and I was literally talking to nobody could hear me. It was great. But Chris, that's so cool. I see those in all the best tanks. Where did you get them? Or are you allowed to say?
Yeah, so I just buy a whole heap of these off eBay and other places, basically wherever I can find them for the cheapest, for decent quality ones.
Actually, I have a funky question for you. How do you ensure that there's not any metal in the base? Because I've had so many situations where it ends up that there's metal in the base. Or do you not worry about that?
I think I do that mostly with trial and error. So if I buy, I generally start with a very small order. So I just sort of, I might buy one or two of each type of decoration, buy in a whole heap of different types of ones, and if I run into any problems like that, I just never buy them again. Whereas if I find some that I actually like, then what I'll do is I'll literally just buy a crap ton of them.
No, I love it. It's great, and that makes sense. That's actually really good advice. Thank you, because that's very good advice. Because I've had a couple of situations where I'm telling you, I think it made a really negative thing for me that I realized too late that it was not very saltwater safe, But
yeah,
Years ago, I bought something similar to that. I got it out of a big website in the States, and I can't think of the name of it, but I had problems with the reed eye getting caught in them. So after that, I just used it for the fry tanks. You ever had that problem?
Yeah. I actually mostly use these ones for the fry tanks. I don't use really, really fine, kind of tiny kind of things like that for the bigger seahorses. I just use it for raising the younger ones, and then I move on to much bigger decorations that they can more easily hold onto with their tail, because we have similar sorts of issues with them getting caught in the mesh or the really fine things. Yeah, definitely.
At least I,
So it's about using like appropriate size decorations for the seahorses that you have.
Makes sense. Go ahead, Ray.
no, I didn't have anything more to add to that.
Okay, sorry. I'm actually, the reason for anybody, I know you guys can't see me in Hangouts, but for the video, I keep smiling and doing funny faces. It's because I'm watching the chat. And at the beginning of the chat, Lucy was not here, and so it was kind of lulling, but Lucy is now handling business up in the chat, and it's hilarious to watch her. So you guys should go back and look at that later. But also, I just want to do a really quick shout out to the Salty Reef. He always comes to the stream, even when it's screwed up and I can't, you can't hear me. He's always here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I just wanted to say that and go right on ahead for you guys. I am a natural blue. Anybody can feel free to join. Here's the link, and go ahead, guys, with your conversation. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead. Any other questions for Chris?
If you've got any questions from the chat, feel free to add them or ask. Fire away.
Yeah. Well, Lucy, if there's any questions that I have missed, please let me know. I'm going to check Facebook real quick. But anyways, let's see. And Jill came in and asked her own questions, so that was great. Thank you again, Jill. I really appreciate it. She's awesome too. And okay, I have a question. What if I get down dirty and serious about getting a group type order together for seahorses from Seahorse Australia? Would I just go through you, go through the site? What's my best bet on setting that up? And are there minimums? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So generally, like, we generally don't say that there's a minimum, but realistically there is a minimum, because it will basically be a very similar freight cost and shipping cost, regardless of the quantity that you buy. So, there will be quantities of seahorses that you could buy from us directly if you're over in the States or over in another country where it will be economically unfeasible to buy, say, one seahorse or 6 seahorses directly from us, unless you're willing to incur those costs. And so, to buy one seahorse might cost you, say, $300, because the one seahorse by itself might cost you, I don't know, like $60 or $80, or, depending on the different species. But the freight cost might cost, $240, regardless of quantity, to deal with importing it into your country. So
right.
There are sort of kind of minimum costs involved, but if you're in an area where there is a good seahorse community like you guys in the US, it's probably best to try and organize a bit of a group order. So you might put out your feelers and see who wants to buy some seahorses. And you might be able to get, someone says, oh, I want 6 barbs, and someone else might want, a dozen red eye, or, some people might want some white eye, or some people might want some abdominalis, or, and if you get together a big enough group, you'll actually have the buying power to buy the seahorses at a decent, reasonable rate, and it'll work out, best for everyone. But, as to whether that you get them shipped directly to you, Kelly, and then you distribute them from there, would be up to you guys.
Sure. No, and I know they do a lot of that in the UK. So I'm not seeing why we couldn't do it. So I'm going to work on that one on my end.
Cheaper for you than it was for me.
Right. Yeah, you were kind of. Go ahead.
My shipping costs were over $700 US.
Jeez, I can't even.
And then I have to pay more Canadian.
Right.
Because we're at the time we were about 2/3 of the US dollar. Right now we're closer to 3/4, but back then it was about 2/3. So it was big time. But the thing is, to me, it was worth it because I was able to get the barbs again. I hadn't had barbs for years since McPain, since he closed down.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what he's doing now, but my original barbs came from his place, and I just was unable to get any more here in Canada without importing them from Seahorse Australia. And
Yeah, definitely.
with this other store that kept on talking about bringing them in, well, it got to the point I waited about a year and then got fed up waiting. So I emailed her and set up so I could get the order in myself. And as far as I'm concerned, it was worth it. But I would imagine shipping for you down there will only be probably half the cost that it was for me.
Right. And first of all, I just want to say that just shows that how amazing you are, Ray, that you cared that much and wanted him back so badly. So I'm so glad that I just know someone who cares this much. And also, thank goodness for places like Seahorse World and Chris, who will come through. I mean, of course, it's not them footing the bill. I mean, making the large cost, it's shipping. So, but that will come through and make that happen for us on that shorter supply chain, because that's like really a big deal. Those seahorses, the less time they spend in shipping, the better. And but I think it's really cool that I think you're both very awesome dudes. Thank you. And Chris, I wanted to ask really quick, kind of veer off because I know we got completely talking about whatever. I wanted to ask, are you guys still doing the tours, and how are the tours going?
Yeah, so we've actually just finished our school holidays last week. So we had Tasmania as well as half the other states in Australia on school holidays all at once. So it was a very hectic time. We had, days of like over 300 visitors coming through our doors in a day. And so it's quietened down a little bit now, but the numbers are pretty constant and steady, which is so cool. Like, we get to, show and teach people all about our seahorses and how we farm them and things each day, which is amazing. And, it's so awesome. Like I've done a few tours lately. It's so awesome to really share our passion with other people.
Right.
And see their reactions to, some of these creatures and them getting to see tiny little fry and other things like that in person.
I know, and I just think it's amazing, and I think it's such a good thing that you're doing. And don't want to give anything away by all means, but we might see more of that soon, right? In video form, right?
Yeah, hopefully.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I still want to be the one to come down and tape it, but I think it's great what you're doing, and the tours are really important. So if you're in Australia, make sure to look them up and check that side of it out too. I know you were talking with Jill about other stuff, but the tours, I don't know, I think they kind of get lost sometimes, and they're extremely important. Is that the main part of Seahorse World? Is the tours? Is that the main thing for you guys, or is it a mix?
It is a mix. If you asked some of the people at Seahorse World, they would say it's all about the tourism. If you ask me, I'm going to say it's all about the aquaculture and raising seahorses and that, because that's what I love so much about it. But it really is a mix of those two things, and it's something that makes us so unique and cool, and really draws people in. We actually just got announced as finalists in this year's Tasmanian Tourism Awards.
Nice.
We've actually got silver awards the last 2 years running, or maybe a bit longer than that. So hopefully this year we'll get gold. It gets announced next month, so I'm excited about that.
How does one win that? Is it a vote thing, or how's
So we actually have tourism judges come through, and it's not just purely based on the experience. A lot of it goes behind the scenes into how the business operates, and it's a little bit funny because it works on a bit of a sliding scale. It works on how the business has improved from the previous years. If you go in back-to-back tourism awards, you actually have to show how you're kind of adapting and changing the business tourism-wise to and so it can really change dramatically from year to year. So the fact that we've been, up there as finalists and, winning silver awards and things back-to-back years actually speaks huge volumes. Like we're so sort of lucky and proud to be achieving things back-to-back,
Absolutely.
because it's one thing to, improve from one year to the next, but then to, keep raising the bar from year to year is incredibly difficult.
Yeah. Now,
I'd be wondering how many people that went through on the tours ended up at some point keeping seahorses. There'd be no way to really find out.
I'd be curious too, though. That's interesting. I wonder too.
Yeah, it would drive me crazy just wondering how many actually would be affected that much by seeing what they do see on the tour.
Well, I have actually heard feedback. Like I have actually had people who've come through on the tour and then months later actually called us for advice or emailed me on how to, keep seahorses and all that. So I do see some of a bit of a flow-on effect from that. But, we have people not just from Tasmania or not just from Australia. We actually have international tourists come from all over the world to see us. And we're quite lucky that we do. Have people from all over the world coming, but as for different people going back to their respective countries and deciding to take up keeping seahorses, it'd be basically impossible to get the sort of numbers of people that do that. But hopefully we have that sort of effect where people might go home to their their countries and say oh wow, you can keep seahorses, that's so cool, let's try that.
Yeah, and you guys also are very big on spreading just the aquaculture message, the captive breeding message, and showing the wildlife and the protection of it. Correct? That's huge.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. So
it's really huge in say the freshwater side of the hobby, but I feel like the marine, from the ocean side of aquaculture is still sort of in its infancy. Like most people think of aquaculture as say salmon farming or farming all different types of fish to eat. Most people it kind of goes over their head a little bit, or they don't even consider the possibility of, breeding aquarium species.
Mm-hmm.
So that's exciting to see that as a massive growth area, and it's exciting to see the different types of marine fish that people are starting to breed all over the world. I think it's very exciting.
Oh my gosh, yes! When I went to at the recent conventions that I've been to, Puma Labs. I always say it wrong, but they're breeding ridiculous species anymore and being successful just because we are all working together and learning from each other. And they're really getting to a level where things are really possible and really cool. That it could at some point, someday, work out and be balanced and be, I can't even think of the word, sustainable. Sustainable is the word. Now I have one other question for you about what you were talking about. What, if you're allowed to say, what this year had you improved for the tourism award? What were you able to show you had done differently or better or improved upon, or do you even know?
It's very, very broad. Like, there's so many things like that we've improved in the last 12 months. From last year, like I actually felt a lot better about our walkthrough when the judges came through. Just thinking about all the changes and improvements that we've made in the aquarium.
Mm-hmm.
I think what I said at the start of this chat about me going through over winter and removing pests from a lot of our tanks, it's not something that most people would realise just looking at our tanks. Because half the time they don't even notice things like aptasia or bristleworms and things like that. But I think that the cleanliness of our displays had improved dramatically from last year, and I know from my side, ease of maintenance has actually dramatically improved as well, because you don't have things like that kind of mucking up the display.
Sure.
And growing out of control, in a pretty small period of time, but. The way that I went about removing them all and, basically nuking them and starting again from scratch actually made me sort of go back and reevaluate all of the different displays And one of the things that I really focused on was making each display look really unique and different. And so I almost had like a different running theme for each different tank. And because each of our different tanks in the first room is a different species or a different type of seahorse, I really wanted our displays to reflect that. So I made each different tank. You would have seen on some of the photos that I sent you personally, Kelly, some of our different displays look, dramatically different from each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just wanted to reflect that, each of the different species is in a totally different looking tank. And just from last year also, I worked on boosting the numbers of seahorses in all of our displays. So all of our displays are massive. They're over, say, 1,000 litres, well and truly. I worked on really filling them out with, say 30, 40 different, almost fully grown seahorses.
Mm-hmm.
To make them a really big bustling display.
Well, and for anyone watching, I apologize. I was so busy working on that audio, trying to get everything right and get us in Discord, that I totally neglected to put those videos or those pictures and images into a video. I will do that still, and I will somehow link it to this or do like a separate video and link it. So I'm sorry about that, Chris. But I will show anyone watching, I will show you the images that he did send, because it is pretty amazing. And I should have had that ready, but anyways.
No, that's fine. Like,
yeah.
I can, post them at a later stage for some people to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wish I would have had it ready. And yeah, thank you. You have been so supportive and so kind in sharing all of your information, and actually getting up early and having to come do this with me. I just really appreciate it. So, next time you come, we'll do a little more planning ahead of time, so it's not so I'm not so all over the place. I apologize. But anyways, so did anyone else have anything else? Because I know I sure don't want to take all of Chris's day here, but
no, I'm not too fussed about it.
I was just glad to be able to see you, somebody that is at the facility that I ordered my seahorses from last.
Isn't that cool?
Definitely.
Yeah, it is cool.
Yeah. Dan, you got it?
Two things I wanted to just quickly say to Ray. I'd feel remiss if I didn't actually bring it up. We're actually shipping some seahorses to Canada today. So I'm not sure who's buying them, or how many we're shipping or whatever, because I'm not at work today. But we are actually shipping some to Canada today. So there might be some seahorses somewhere up there, somewhere in the hobby.
Might be that same fellow that in the Toronto area was wanted them ordered before, and I was sitting there waiting. But he was because seahorses that he wanted were already spoken for, and he had to wait till his turn came along.
Yeah.
But
the other thing I'll just say is we probably don't ship to Canada as much as we'd like, but Canada is literally the furthest place. If you look on a map, it's literally the furthest place that we send seahorses to.
Is that right?
I always use Canada as a we've actually got on our tour, we've actually got a world map, and we've got like all these different lines come from Tasmania to all the different places we send our seahorses to. I always use Canada as the furthest place that we actually ship to.
That's interesting. I would have thought it's further to go to the UK than to Canada.
I think it's actually just a smidge closer in terms of distance.
Wow.
So
interesting things you find out.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
Never too old to learn.
That's exactly right.
We're too old. Well, I'm going to sign off now, and I appreciate being invited to come to this again tonight. And thank you, Chris, for being on. And,
no problem. Thanks for asking some cool questions.
Times.
Yep.
Anyway, I'm going to sign off now. Thanks, Kelly, and good night, Dan. I think Dan's still there.
Yep. Hey, Ray, I wanted to tell you I did finally figure out the Discord. I just wasn't ready to release it. So I'll let you know tomorrow or the next day, and we'll play with that some more. Ray's been really helping me out. Thank you.
Okay, then. Well, tomorrow night got Toronto Maple Leafs hockey.
Oh, okay. The next night then. I understand. No hockey interruptions.
Yeah, hockey's important.
I hear you. No worries. All right. Well, thank you for coming. See you later.
Okay, good night.
Bye. All right. Dan, you got anything else?
No, I'm still. Oh, I put up the piebalgs again.
Oh, the piebald. So what's going on with them? Is it? Oh, I lost. You can't hear me.
What's what?
You can't hear me anymore.
I think she's kind of gone a little bit.
Yeah, she probably unplugged her mic again.
Yeah, probably. What's happening with the piebald?
I just posted it again.
Cool.
I get a fairly steady production.
That's really good.
Wow, what's that noise?
Something I'll just quickly put out there.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Anybody having to hear this? Okay. Can y'all hear me now?
That's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
It just went absolutely crazy psycho because my microphone. So I'm gonna say thank you guys, and I'm gonna stop this before everybody like never comes back because it's screeching in people's ears. Dan, I will do a post and share your post. Chris, thank you so much for coming. We'll come back again when I have a microphone that doesn't get unplugged. If you guys.
Well, before you hop out, Chris will say something.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Thanks for having me on. The other thing I was going to say is I'll bring up a topic for both of you guys on your respective platforms. I've got a topic that I'd love you guys to sort of talk about and discuss with everyone on the groups. Seahorse keeping has never been easier with the the advances that we've had in captive breeding and being able to ship a lot better, easier and well, and the advances in things like hurricane spinners and technology in general. Seahorse keeping has never been easier.
I would agree.
So, I think it's a great time for people just finding out about seahorses and that to actually get into the hobby.
We hear you again. Yeah.
Yep. No, that's fine. No, that's technology is fun to work with that. Yeah. No, that's alright. You can just edit